Welcome back to the show. Now, a lot of people in my community struggle with feeling good about sales. They either resist sales or they're afraid of sales conversations or they've got a lot of worries about showing up and being salesy or any number of other disempowering thoughts. So if that sounds familiar, then this episode is for you. My guest today is Sarah Walton, and Sarah is a business mentor whose specialty is making sales fun as she helps women heal their relationship with money. And we talk all about how to make sales less uncomfortable and, yes, even enjoyable, and how to conquer your fears about sales, and also how to really dig deep and understand what's going on for you when you are resisting sales. She also shares some practical and really unique strategies for implementing all the mindset work that we get into in this conversation. I absolutely loved my conversation with Sarah, and I think that you will too. Well, hey, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, Kim, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I cannot wait to get into today's conversation with you, Sarah, because we are going to be talking all about how to make sales fun. And for those of you listening or watching, you might be thinking, what? Fun? Right? But I think that Sarah is going to help you see sales in a really different way. And, really, I'm looking forward to this. So I cannot wait to pick your brain on this one, Sarah. But before we get to it, let's give our audience just a bit more context. I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit more about the work that you do in the world and about you, Sarah.
Sure. Well, oh my gosh, thank you. That's so generous of you. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. So much like you, I love what you're doing for health coaches of the world, by the way. So exciting and so needed. And my expertise is I really help women package themselves based on their experience, their expertise, and their talents. And we look at all of those things we've been gifted as humans because we all get these individual packages, right? Like none of us come in with these same experiences or expertise. So I really have this knack for pulling that out of people, having them package it, and then make the world a better place by actually selling it. And that is where I just found my joy was there is just this massive fear of selling, especially among women. I specifically only work with women, and there is just this terror and or sleaze factor and or bro marketing factor that comes in when we start talking about sales and people freak out.
Yeah,
And I was
so
just
true.
like, no, let's not freak out. This is like a skill. You can learn how to do it and you never have to be a jerk. She said elegantly.
I love it. That's got to be your tagline, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I love all of that. I am here for all of that for sure. So, I mean, let's just dive right into that. I want to talk about, making sales. So, what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes that, we make, especially as women, but one of the biggest mistakes that we make when selling?
Okay. Well, there's several, but first, let me just start with this. Okay. Sales is not about you. Which I think it's really hard for people to grasp that because when you're on a sales call or you're writing a sales page or you're working on your email copy and you're like, I am the most salesy mixed masterman salesman. Like it's just this awful feeling people feel, right? It's like just yuck. And so what I like to do right there is pause and say, this has nothing to do with you. And I liken this a lot to being a doctor. If you could imagine you're a doctor and you're walking, as you are, Kim, you're a doctor, you're walking past somebody and they're bleeding out and you just walk by because you're like, well, I don't want to be salesy.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me right now? Someone is actually in desperate need of what you have to offer, but you don't want to be salesy about it. And when I talk about it that way, all of a sudden you can get one, that's a really extreme example. And I do that on purpose. But two, what would you ever? You would never, ever walk past somebody who needed you. Right. And we all know that that's really what we're doing when we're offering what we have to the world is it's actually not about us. Yes, we need to make a living. And yes, we'll have mortgage payments. And yes, we'll need to, my daughter has type 1 diabetes. We got to pay the copays. Like, of course that's real. And in the moment of a sale, that has nothing to do with you. It's about the other person. So to answer your question about some of the biggest mistakes that we make, This one's really tangible, and I hope I'm in everybody's ears. Like, I hope I just rest on your brain the next time you're in a sales call. Like, you just go, oh my gosh, I just did the thing, or I'm not going to do the thing Sarah said. And this is that we talk about our price like a mom asking someone to clean their room. It's like the funny, I'm like, what just happened to your voice? Like, it is so funny, but we go to this high pitched, like sing-songy voice, and it's the strangest thing. And we do it because, again, we're afraid of being sales and we want to be nice to the people that we're selling to.
Yeah.
So we buy it. And it's like, oh dear, no, no, no. So one of the things I hope everybody takes from today is that you say it just like a fact, right? The sky is blue, the leaves on the tree are green. To work with me is $3,000, like, or whatever it is. And you just say it. And then the second mistake comes right after that, which is like the deafening pause that happens after we say our prices, right? Everybody goes, you like freak out. Your heart is pounding. You're like, oh my gosh. Here's what we have to understand: when our hearts are pounding or we're nervous, once again, we're making it about us. And what's actually happening on the other side is that person is going through their own process and we interrupt it because we start throwing features out. Well, and then you get this, and then you get that, and then you get, and they're like, dude, I'm trying to see how can I figure this out? And I liken this, you guys, kind of to thinking about how you would react if your water heater broke right now. That's $1,000 breakage, right? Like, at least for, depending on the size of it, depending on where you are, that's a lot of money. And when your water heater breaks, you find it. You go find the money, you deal with it, you figure it out. And a lot of the times when we're in a conversation like that, what's happening on the other side is the person just heard something like, okay, my water heater broke and this is what it's going to cost. My business is broke and this is what it's going to cost, right? My process is broken and this is what it's going to cost. I'm not healthy right now and this is what it's going to cost. And you got to give them a minute to sort of figure out, one, how important is this to me? Is my health this important? Am I ready to take this on right now? And the last thing that process needs is a bunch of features.
Right.
And one more thing, right? They're like, what? I'm just trying to figure what just happened.
Yeah.
So you just want to really honor somebody else's process. And that takes a little bit of patience on our part and honestly, some compassion and humility. Does that make sense, Kim? Like,
That makes so much sense. Yeah, that so many gems in there. Like, really starting right from just the mindset flip of that sales is not about you. But of course we make it about ourselves. I mean, it's like so many things in business, actually. We make it be about ourselves and it is not about us. Like, you just have to keep on relentlessly focusing on the other person, on their experience, on what they need, on how you can help them. Yeah, that's just so beautiful. But it's a tough thing to do, like to say your price, because everybody feels nervous about their pricing, to say your price and then just to shut up, right? Just to stay quiet. But that is, I mean, whatever mindset tricks you have to do to like just keep yourself just allowing the other person to have their process, like you said, right? You've got to allow that space. And it's going to feel like an hour. But
it does. It's like, did someone just freeze time? Did I freeze? Is my Zoom still on? What just happened? Like, you go through all that. Yeah. Is this real life? Yeah. I mean, all that sort of comes in and it just, in those moments, by the way, if you guys just freaked out or you're like, I could never do that. I could never do that. I would love for you to keep a Post-it note either on your screen or near your phone or whatever you need to do that just reminds you why you started your business. And just bring yourself back to planet Earth. And if you're feeling really nervous or you feel like it's taking a long time, obviously, if it takes a super duper long time, one of my favorite questions is, did you have any questions about that? That can help. Don't do it too soon. Only if you're like, seriously, dude, are we frozen? Like, then maybe you can ask that. But if you're finding yourself responding physically, like you're starting to get nervous or you sweat or you're like, I really can't bite my tongue anymore, just wiggle your toes inside your shoes. It makes a big difference. You remember you're fine. Everything's fine. The world is not going to explode. It can feel that way in that moment, right? But you're fine. And then look at why you started your business. And that's why I say keep that Post-it note there, because it really does. It pulls you back down to planet Earth. You wiggle your toes. You literally feel yourself get pulled back to planet Earth. And then if you feel like something's happened or they're still thinking like, did you have any questions about that? Or is there anything anything else I can do to help you make the best decision for you?
Yeah, those are great, really practical suggestions. I love that
Mhm.
anchoring idea of wiggling your toes. Such a simple little thing and nobody has to know.
So
So,
great. By the way, you guys can use that all the time. If you're
yeah.
fighting with somebody, if you're nervous, if you're in a big conference room, or if something's going awry, wiggle your toes. It's so helpful.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about discovery calls because I know that for many coaches, particularly in the beginning of building their business, this discovery calls can be really anxiety provoking. So, how about preparing for it? Is there a way that we can prepare ourselves for discovery calls in a way that feels good? Tell me about what your ideas on that.
Oh, I love it. Well, first of all, you have to make sure you're getting the right people on the calls.
Mm.
And so I would always say before you even get on the call, make sure you have a wonderful welcome message to somebody who has just scared the heck out of themselves and decided to get on a call with you. Like they are
So
so
true.
scared, right? They're like, oh my gosh, she's going to cost $9 million. She's going to sell me. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So remember, they're nervous.
Yeah.
So really supporting them through that process, either with tips or ideas or what to expect on the call or 3 questions I'm going to love asking you. And I love, I'm really excited to hear your answers, that kind of a thing. And then the other thing I always say before every call, I have 2 tips on this. One, if you have super duper fancy shoes that make you feel amazing, put them on.
Mm.
And yes, I'm talking about that crazy pair you can't believe you spent all that money on. Go get them. Put them on before the call. I swear it makes a big difference. And I'll get into that more in just a second. And then the other is to recognize that every single sales call is an opportunity to change someone else's life.
Mm.
And that's really what you want to focus on is this is an opportunity for me to change someone else's life. And I think, with what, Kim, what you do and what all your people do and what you guys are doing, I mean, oh, I could go on and on, but I have such I don't even know what the word is. I just this affinity for people in the healthcare industry, but also to like actively support people in being more healthy. I can't. Like I have 2 autoimmune diseases. I shared with you guys about my daughter. Like
Mm.
my entire family was severely obese when I was growing up. Like I've seen what happens when
Mm.
people don't take care of themselves. So for you to ground yourself back and say, this is an opportunity to change/save someone
Yeah.
else's life.
Yes,
And
truly.
that sort of oh my gosh, how can I help you? That changes the entire tone of the conversation. And it also has you remember who you really are and why you're doing this. Again, I want you grounded in that for as long as possible inside that phone call because it's not about you.
Mm.
Okay. And let me just talk about the shoes for one
Yeah,
second.
tell me.
Okay, here's the deal.
You need to
And
take
people
us
are
back
like,
to
wait, the
get
shoes,
back to the
people.
shoes.
The shoes. Yeah, I know. And it's funny because I'm not a shoe bag kind of gal. I'm much more of a vacation, really good food kind of gal, but that's okay. I do love a good pair of shoes. And here's what I'll say to you guys. I just really want you to understand this as well. When you're talking about your own prices and you're talking about the experience that your clients will have working with you as a coach.
Mm.
And here's the deal. You could go buy a pair of Jimmy Choos or Manolo Blahniks or whatever the heck, pick a name you want to buy, right? You could go get those, or you can go get a pair of sneakers for 20 bucks, right? They're both shoes
Mhm.
and they're both going to help you walk across the floor, right? And they're both going to protect your feet from getting like gross dirty, at least we hope, right? So they're both shoes. But the experience that you have as a human being in putting on those ridiculous shoes, I just being like, oh my God, these are so beautiful. Right? That feeling people have.
Yeah.
That is a whole other experience of being alive.
Mm.
It just is. And
Yeah.
it's not, again, I don't really care about shoes. It's not that, but I've also had that experience, right? If it's really like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And really following that through, right, with where that money's going. But there's the salesperson who's working with you, of course. There's all of the people inside the store, everything there. There's the leather on the shoes, the person who expertly crafted those, the person who designed them,
Mm.
the rest of the fabric that's probably come from different parts of the world that people dyed just so, right? The architecture of, I mean, if you sit down and think it's a work of art, and you are now participating in the amazing cycle of supporting other people's dreams and other people's expertise and other people's talents. And boy, is that exciting, because now you're really involved in the world and in our society in a different way. And I want you to remind yourself of that by putting those shoes on and understanding that you are a human being who appreciates your fellow humans. You're not afraid to pay for your fellow humans' talents, right? And really understanding that puts you in a totally different headspace when you get on a call with somebody who's about to do the same thing for you. Where
Right.
they're like, oh, heck yeah, no, she's the one for me. She totally gets severe obesity in a family when you're a little girl watching people eat ice cream. Like, she's going to get that. Right? You can't pay for that. I
Yeah.
mean, you can, but it is worth so much more. Just like the experience of walking out of the store with those shoes is so different from the sloppy sneakers you don't really care about. Very, very different experience. And you want to create that experience for yourself. So you're creating it for your potential.
Yeah, I love that. And that you're right. It's such a that would be to put out like because we all work from home and we're it's just the dream of course even pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't we I mean, do we even wear pants half the time, let alone shoes, right? But I
I
love
had to look down and check. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
but I love it. Like just actually wear the shoes, not just for like just for the message that it's going to give to you and how it will influence your energy in how you show up on the
Mhm.
call for your potential client. I love that
Yeah.
suggestion, Sarah. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I am curious about your thoughts on why so many people are scared of sales. Like
Yeah.
what's going on here and what can we do when we feel really scared
Well, I mean, have you ever had a really crappy sales conversation and been like on the receiving end, right?
on
Where
the
someone's
receiving end?
pressuring you,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah. That's at the heart of all of it
Mm.
is like, oh my gosh, I never want to do that to anyone else. Which, if we think about it, is actually a really nice thing. Like, let's
Yeah.
not run around and be jerks, right?
Right.
It's like, we make this collapse of like, oh my God, I'm going to be
Mm.
like that person. And I think somewhere along the line, uh, all of sales in our heads got like collapsed into that one moment.
Mm.
And it like does take some work to sort of pull that apart and recognize that we would never do that to somebody else. And I think what is included in that is a great deal of self-trust. And the idea that I would never do that, but I have to trust myself not to turn to those tactics when I'm scared. Right. So let's say your water heater just broke and you're about to get on a sales call and you forgot your expensive shoes and you're in that like panic, like, oh my God, I have to make the sale. I have to, I have to, I have to, I have
Mm.
to. Right. That's where that starts to come in. And so there are a couple of things I always remind people to do in that moment, because I think at the heart of it, we would never act like that. We would never do that pressury sales, like I call the bro thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna miss out. It's like whatever
Yes.
that is, right? That weird, creepy thing people do. And that always comes from fear.
Mm.
It comes from our own fear of lack, our own fear of like, oh my God, can I really do this? Is my spouse going to make me go get a quote unquote real job? Like all those
Yeah.
fears that come
Yeah.
up, we act like idiots when we're scared. I mean, we really do. And that is universal. All of us do it. And so it's like, that's where the self-trust has to come in
Mm.
and have us recognize we're not going to do that. And the best way for us to get to that, it sounds really funny, but it's an exercise in self-forgiveness.
Mm.
So I'm going to just back up just a tad like I do. But you said you work with women who had been raped. Stay with me. I swear to God, there's a connection here, I
All right.
promise.
I'm
And
with
you're
you.
like, what? Yeah, but it really is. I think every time I share this, every woman goes, oh my gosh, yes.
Mm.
So what we would talk about in those conversations was that the physical act, right, as awful as it was, that was healable, right? Like our bodies are designed to heal. Bad stuff can happen to our bodies. We can get hurt. We can accidentally cut ourselves when we're making toast in the morning. Like
Mm.
our bodies heal. And that part of it actually wasn't as hard to get through. What was hard to get through is, without exception, women would say to me, I knew,
Mm.
I knew. The
Oh.
second I heard his voice, my body screamed, run. I knew I should have gotten out of that situation and I didn't do it. And that form of self-betrayal is actually what we had to do the work on, right? Because that is brutal,
Hmm.
right? And so when you hear that, and I know a lot of women go, oh my gosh, yes, I know that feeling, right? And it's like, these women were like, I didn't want to be rude. And it's like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, we've programmed ourselves to get hurt instead of be quote unquote rude.
yeah.
So really looking at that. And what we need to do here to really get to that moment where we can trust ourselves that even when we're scared, we're going to show up as our best selves is to actually go back and find your own moments of self betrayal, which sounds awfully deep to make sales fun, right? You're like, wait a second, lady. I thought we were in here talking about fancy shoes. And it's like, yes, that is part of it. But in order to be really great at sales, in order to really understand that you're here to help people and you're here to transform lives and you're here to make things amazing for other people, you've got to trust yourself.
Mm,
And it's very difficult to do that if you're hanging on to an old story of, yeah, but I stayed in that relationship too long, or yeah, but I'm not really certified in this, or yeah, but
mm.
right. And you start pulling up these things. Then when you go to sell, you start acting like the bro dude, right? And now we've got a problem because you're reinforcing that story that you can't trust yourself, which sounds crazy. And like I said, I know it's a little deep for sales, but it really does matter. If you want to like just be amazing at helping people, you got to heal your own stuff. And it's one of the reasons I love working on sales because there's so much magic that comes out of it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I absolutely agree that you do have to go deep. Like, yeah, we are talking about trying to make it fun, but you've got to unpack all the stuff that's happening under the surface, or else you're just kind of trying to put frosting on, things that are really deep seated.
Mhm.
And so I love that example and those strategies of how to really like examine your fear. You're
Mhm.
scared of something. So what is it? Like, let's really unpack it and look at it, rather than running away from it and letting it and pretending it's not there and just
Yeah.
letting it run the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to ask you about the concept of disappointment or like not hitting your revenue goal. So let's say that
Mm.
somebody sets a big revenue goal because this is what we're all about. You know, we set these goals and we're working towards making it happen. Let's say somebody sets a big revenue goal for their wellness business, but they don't reach it. And repeatedly this keeps happening. They're not reaching their goals. Tell me a little bit about what you think is going on with that.
So many things, right? So many things. But usually what I find is it's a lack of clarity on exactly what needs to be sold in order to
Mm,
hit the goal, which sounds silly. And that's not everybody. So if you just rolled your eyes and said, nah, I know it's 6 people every 5, right? I got it. I know. But a lot of the times people just don't know. And so you just throw this random number up on the wall because you're supposed to,
yeah,
right? Everybody's like, get your 6 figures, get your this, get your
yeah.
that, hit your 10K a month. Like, it's like, that's awesome. And yes, we do want to hit those goals, but our brain can't wrap around that. I actually just had this conversation with a one-on-one client. She's like, oh, I wrote my $1 million check from the universe. I'm like, yeah, your brain has no idea what to do with that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's fantastic. Put it up on the wall, make yourself excited. Like my revenue goal, I can see it right now. Like, of course, let's get that up there. That's fantastic. And today, right now, what do you actually need to do in order to hit that number? And I don't think people like doing that work, but it really is the question of like, let's say it is $10,000 a month.
Mm,
What does that mean? How many packages would you need to sell? Is it a group
mm,
program? And if so, how many people need to be in it? And then from there, it's a how many conversations a day do you need to have kind of question, right? So you really got to break it down to the point that your brain knows what to do because oftentimes it doesn't know what to do with the $1 million check from the universe. It may as well be a Hallmark card. It's like, that's nice. I don't know what that is. And I certainly doesn't mean anything to me. And then the other thing I think we don't spend enough time on, I really hope you guys let this like just like crawl into your brain and sit there for a minute, is we don't track our success.
mm,
Meaning, we don't track the actions we took to
hmm.
cause success. Right. So it's like I've had to say to client, they're like, I'm in a lull all of a sudden and I don't know why. My sales are dropping and I don't know why. I said, okay, what did you stop doing or what did you start doing? Go back and tell me what actions you took on a daily basis or a weekly basis that caused those initial sales. Like what happened there? What were you doing? And then what did you stop doing or what did you start doing? And usually there's something in there. Once in a while, the market will shift. Like right now, nobody wants any online programs. They want direct coaching with people like that. The market will shift from time to time.
Mhm.
And we just have to pay attention to that. That's also real. But for the most of the time, it's one of the two. You don't know what you do that causes success, so you can't repeat it. Or you've picked some arbitrary magic number that has no meaning to you. And so you don't know what actions to take to cause it.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you broke that down because
Mm,
you're absolutely right. I mean, if we don't reverse set a goal that means anything, and then
right.
how can we reverse engineer it? And then, because then it's just like an arbitrary number, and well, how on earth is that going to actually happen? So, yeah, that's great. I love that. Can you talk to me about the concept of codependence? So, I think that I've seen you talk about this idea of like high functioning codependence. And I'm curious about that. I'd love for you to tell me a bit more and talk about the role that this has in sales.
Oh, goodness. Well, we might run over time just a tad, but so
No
hang on to
problem.
your hats and glasses, you guys, okay? Because this is where it gets really fun.
Awesome.
But high functioning codependence this is one of my favorite terms. And usually when I say high functioning, women's ears perk up, right? It's like,
Mhm.
what? And then I put in the codependence and don't know what to do with that, which I get. This is not my term. I believe it came from Brene Brown.
Mm.
But it's the idea that we as women, so I've been talking about this forever, but I'm so happy to finally have like a term for it. So and you probably know this too, Kim, right? But as women, we have more connective tissue between the two hemispheres of our brain,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons we are crazy. And we'll be like, yes, I want chicken for dinner. Did you get that? Did you defrost it? Yes, I want that. And you're like typing an email at the same time and the phone rings, you pick it up and you send a text, right? And you're like, that was like just Tuesday, whatever. That's the high functioning piece of us. We
Mm.
really have that ability to bounce back and forth between the right and left hemisphere. We can manage all those things. We're fantastic at multitasking. And this is something that humans born into male bodies tend not to have as much of, right? So those of you who have brothers or male spouses and they're watching TV and you say, hey, can you help me with this thing? They go, but, but I'm watching TV, right? Because they do one thing at a time. Now, neither one is better, right? We need people who really focus in on one thing at a time, and we need people who can manage 18 things at once, right? They're both fantastic. But where it does leave us as women is this extraordinary ability to be high functioning is actually damaging over the long term, right?
Mm.
But we don't stop doing it because there's a codependent piece to it. And that codependent piece looks something like, oh my God, Kim, I saw your video and you're killing it, right? Or the neighbor who's like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. You're so selfless. You're
Mm.
like, yes, I have no self. That is correct, right? Because you are just running around like crazy. So it's this idea that we as women are rewarding each other
Yeah.
for functioning at a level that is really unhealthy, right? And this is where the stress comes in. This is why more women have strokes. One of my best friends is a nurse on the brain ward of her hospital. And she said, I don't have a single shift where there's not a woman who unexpectedly had a stroke.
Mm.
It's like just what happens, right? And this
Right.
high functioning codependence is so important. And it's going to take us as women talking to each other about how it's not necessary to function at that level and to not create the codependent piece, which is, yeah, you're so fantastic. You're so great. It's like, how are you?
Yeah. Oh
You
my
know?
God. I love that. That just
Mm,
like, that really resonated with me, the way that you just described that.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. I have yet to find a really awesome woman, right? Who's out there like really powerful and everyone's like, oh my God, she's amazing. Who's not like, yes. Right? It's like this big sigh of like, you mean I don't have to keep going at this level?
Yeah.
No, you don't. And we need to support each other in taking a beat there a little bit more often.
Yeah, so because that codependence is amongst ourselves, like,
Yes.
as women, we keep on, like, and it sounds like it's being supportive, like, we're
Hmm.
supporting each other, like, "You go, girl," like, that kind of
Hmm.
thing, but really, it's just keeping this cycle, this hamster wheel going. I love that. That's
Yeah.
so fascinating.
Yeah. And what that'll do is you're so worn out and you're so nervous and you've done all the things that by the time you get on a sales call or you're coaching someone and you're looking to cause results,
Mhm.
but you are so exhausted and you are so spent that the next time you're on a sales call, you're like, oh, well, I didn't cause results for Susan. So maybe I shouldn't be doing this, right? When actually the culprit is one, not looking at where there's some self betrayal, which
Mm.
if you're functioning inside of the high functioning codependence, there is because you're turning off your own needs in order to get more accolades. So that's a form of self betrayal. So, really looking at how we can start to heal that and supporting each other in healing that.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Like we can still support each other. We need to continue to support each other, but
Hmm.
supporting each other in, a different way.
Hmm.
Like you said, that question of like, how are you? How are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Okay, amazing. This has just been such an amazing conversation, Sarah. You are seriously such a gem and you've shared so much value here. Tell us where people can go to connect with you and learn more about your work.
Yeah, sure. So you guys, you can come on over to sarahwalton.com. If you really want this freebie, you can go to sarahwalton.com/freedom. This is a free gift I have for you guys. And it is a freedom calculator. Remember, we were talking about knowing exactly what you want to make. I have you start with the number that will actually have you feel free, where you like
Great.
your shoulders will drop a little from your ears and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. Right. I'm really looking at it from that perspective. And then there's a whole workbook behind it on how you can figure out um, how to sell this thing, how to market it in a way that will actually attract the right people so that you can hit your freedom number, whatever that number is. And nobody gets to judge that but you. That's the great thing about having it be a workbook is nobody knows but you. It's a secret. So you don't have to be embarrassed or too excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm so egomaniacal that's my number. You're fine either way. We love you.
Yeah.
And then if you guys want to know, a little bit more, you can head on over to YouTube. I have a weekly show there called Sarah Uncut, and heaven help me, I just turn on my phone and start talking and nobody ever knows what's going to happen. It's frightening.
Oh,
It's so
wild.
much fun. So come on over.
Okay, that sounds amazing. I will put those links in the show notes. Before I let you go, though, Sarah, I would just love to ask you one last question. So, if you
Mm.
were going to share, one key takeaway, we talked about so much great stuff, so many juicy things today, but just one thing that people could do, or maybe just the very first step that our audience should do right now, to put some of this into practice. What would that be? What would you say?
Oh my goodness.
I know
There's
it's
so
tough,
many,
right?
right? Well, there's one thing I would leave you with this thought, and it might spark a different conversation, but I'm going to leave you with this thought anyway. And that is that money is infinite, which
Hmm.
everybody goes, what? Just take a second right now and just look around the room. Every single thing that you can see in your own line of sight is something somebody created and sold. And as long as you can trust yourself to create something of value, money is infinite.
I love it. I'm gonna leave it at that because that is just that's beautiful food for thought. So amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. This has just been such a pleasure. Okay, well, there you have it. I hope that you found some practical ideas as well as some mindset reframes to help you on your journey to embracing sales so that you can help more people and make more money because that's what I want for you. Now, I would love to hear from you on this. How do you feel about sales right now? And what is the very first thing that you're going to do to begin to make sales more fun for yourself? Let me know in the comments below this video, or if you're listening to the audio of this episode, just find me on Instagram and let me know. Okay, that is what I've got for you today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.